The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Wolden. We got a great show for you today. And of course, we can't start the show without introducing this man. To my left, Andrew Brethauer with the Lloydminster Source. How are you?
Doing all right. Getting close to Christmas. Time off.
Exactly. It's getting near. It's getting near,
there.
that's for sure. And we're pleased to be joined by, on his right side, a guy who's familiar with the show, Aaron Rawlik, of course, one of the chairmen for a Junior B here in Hockey Alberta, or with Hockey Alberta, that is. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Happy to be back.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll get right into it, and we'll go into local hockey and talk about the Lloydminster Bobcats, a team that has shown some prominence, but of course has struggled. And if you look at the games, even the win against Spruce Grove, they were out quite a few players, to be honest, when both teams had affiliates. They haven't really shown much in terms of what they possibly could do going down the road. So you look at this roster, you look where they are, you look at the struggles, particularly what happened in the weekend against Whitecourt, a team that's chasing them in the standings. I will say, what are some of the underlying issues with this hockey club? And we'll begin with you, Aaron.
I think a big part of it is just you've got a bit of a yin and the yang of complacency, knowing you're going to the RBC anyway. But also, I'm sure a lot of those guys are holding their sticks a little tight. I mean, the leadership of that team has shown in the past that they're not afraid to make trades. They're not afraid to move guys. They've got to build a team that can compete for that trophy at the end of the year. And I think you've got a group of players that are waiting to be traded or think that they might be, or if they're scared to make a mistake because they think they're going to be on the next bus out of town. So, I mean, that's part of it. I think come second week, third week of January, after the cut down deadline, I think you're going to see a whole new Bobcats team, maybe not players-wise, but just attitude and effort where they'll be able to relax, know they're here till the end of the year, and then play to their potential.
Exactly. When you trade your assistant captain, longest-serving player, Austin Yaremchuk, that's got to send a message to your locker room that anyone can get moved, anybody. And if you look at the list of players they've gotten rid of and the list they've got back, that list that they've gotten rid of is a lot bigger. So then, and with the way they're playing, you know more still to come. There's so many underlying issues. You look at power play, effort, intelligence, everything they do. There's a problem in everything, and that's, I think, to me, the greater problem is that there's so many little problems that they haven't solved yet.
So what does this mean going forward? You kind of touched on it. This is a team that maybe has to wait until January 10th or after that deadline in order to kind of say, okay, now we can coast.
Yeah,
or I wouldn't say coast, but you get what I mean.
You're a 17 to 20-year-old hockey player, and you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. I mean, I think that's got to weigh on their minds. And of course, none of them, you can interview them, Moses and Andrew, all you want. None of them are ever going to admit it. But when it comes down to it, it has to be in the back of their mind. There's no way it can't be. And I think once they get past that deadline, whether some guys get moved out and new guys come in, everybody's going to be able to relax, and then you're going to see that Bobcats team. I mean, if they're not playing well the end of January, I think then there's going to be some real fear amongst the leadership and in the locker room.
And you could see the flashes of brilliance that they do have. You did see it against Spruce Grove, and you can see it against other teams like Whitecourt. You see they are capable of playing to the level that's going to, say, win this league. But they're also capable of playing to a league where they're going to lose against, like, say, Calgary for some reason. They're that kind of team. There is no dynamic to where they're either good or they're bad. And that's the biggest problem. Even Gord has said it, that, you know, some nights they're on and they're great, some nights they're off, and he doesn't know what it is. That's just every so often they play good one night, next night they're playing bad. So there's a lot of movement, and yeah, if you don't think they're in their back of their head, they're thinking, I'm going to be playing for a national championship, I hope I don't get traded. You know every single one of those players is thinking that.
The Edmonton Eskimos are a team that was looking for a head coach after they lost theirs. Chris Jones went to Saskatchewan a week ago. Yesterday, they officially unveiled who they brought in, and is actually a familiar face. Jason Maas, the quarterback or former quarterback of the Eskimos, is now taking over the head coaching and OC position. This is a guy who did a brilliant job in his first year as offensive coordinator and turned around an Ottawa Redblacks team that, with the help, of course, with the coach, but offensively, they went 2-16, and then you saw arguably the best year Henry Burris has ever had in his career at the age of 40. Imagine what he could do with a guy in his prime in Mike Riley. But here's the thing. The Ottawa Redblacks are asking for compensation. They didn't get any from Saskatchewan when they let go of Chris Jones. Should the Redblacks receive any compensation? Or do you believe that's right? Andrew?
No, they shouldn't get any. It's not in the league. As far as I know, they don't get compensation for management moving up. If management moves up in a position, they shouldn't. That's what you want. You want guys who are in those offensive coordinator, those defensives, to move up and be your next level of head coaches, because guys eventually retire. And if you're going to hold on to these, you're going to have good minds sitting and playing in positions that aren't the positions you want them. You want them as head coaches. And a guy like Maas, you should be having him as a head coach in this league.
I think if he was under contract, that there should be some kind of compensation. I mean,
He did have a year left.
right. So there's got to be something. I mean, part of this is the CFL's problem, where they've let teams just have this handshake agreement for such a long time, where the Eskimos shook hands with the Riders and said, yeah, go ahead. We understand. He's always said he wants to be GM, coach, vice president of whatever. He took on 12 titles. Great. Let him go. I think that with Maas, obviously, maybe they didn't have that conversation with the Red Blacks. The Red Blacks are a little upset now that they've lost. Well, you know what? Give him a 4th-round draft pick and be done with it.
Just call it a day and just give him a quick little pick. All right. Well, how about let's move on to this. You wouldn't say. Well, I find this interesting. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to find the words to exactly describe Steven Stamkos in terms of the intelligence he's shown. He's a great player. We all know that. But yet, over the last, say, few years, he's been known to make mistakes, especially on Twitter, which is a huge no-no because the media is going to gobble it up. And that was the case last week when he apparently liked a tweet from TSN saying the possibility of Stamkos moving to Toronto. Of course, he's a UFA this year coming up. You got to think to yourself that maybe this wouldn't be the best idea. Of course, he immediately disliked it, but the damage was done. And he's done this several times before with the same Leafs organization. He visits them tonight. What do you think the outcome should be for Steven Stamkos, and if you were the Tampa Bay Lightning in this situation?
Oh, I bet you they're having a heck of a laugh about it in their dressing room. I mean, I'm sure that's what it is. I mean, we live, on the outside of the center of the universe in Toronto. So, of course, the Toronto Sports Network, they've been hyping that Stamkos has been going there, since he was 12 years old. He's going to sign with the Maple Leafs. Well, I think that's just him having a little bit of fun. I am sure, given the fact that he's down there in the leadership role, the captain of the Lightning, I mean, whether he goes or not, but I think that's just him having a good laugh, and his teammates are probably laughing about it. And I would imagine Yzerman and the coach are probably giggling about it as well.
Really? I thought they'd be upset because you look at this guy, it's not just, hey, you know what, you could understand if it just, ended up being a pocket dial situation, but this has happened 3 times now with the same team. There's a serious issue. Maybe if I was the organization, I'd say stay off Twitter for a while.
See, I'd be more concerned about his hands because apparently he's a great goal scorer, but can't keep those thumbs going. Like, this is,
he hasn't been scoring lately.
Maybe his
he
stock is starting to fall. Maybe Toronto should back off on this. Like, throw him to Montreal or something. But this has happened so often with Stamkos. You don't really know. And of course, it's Toronto media, and I lived in Toronto, and I know Toronto media and the funness of everything's a story all the time, every day. And this is one of those cases where. And if you look at today, like how many times I think I read today about 5-6 times about how much he hates his coach, likes his coach, okay with his coach, doesn't talk to him. There's always something. Everybody has a different opinion of the coach's perspective. This is Steve Yzerman, who's I'd say a good genius of a GM, knows what he's doing, and a player that is the franchise of of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Very quickly, does he re-sign with Tampa Bay in the summer?
I think he does.
I think before then.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. The case is closed on Steven Stamkos. But don't worry, we got plenty of more topics to come up here on Gloves coming up.